So I want to start by saying hello again to all of you who have joined us today, and greetings from the Center for Contemporary Mysticism in Philadelphia. As you may have figured out, my name is Joe Irwin, and it's a joy to gather with you again to explore this amazing journey that we share. Today, our very special guest is a longtime friend and spiritual companion, Mari Perron. As you all know by now, she's the first receiver of the world-renowned A Course of Love. And also with her is a colleague, Michael Mark, who's worked closely with her for a number of years and in particular has worked in assisting her on her latest book, Metanoia, that I'm hopeful we'll get to hear a good bit about. And first, I want to tell a little story. We were just talking about it. The history of Mari and the center goes way back about 7 or 8 years when she and a friend of hers, Mary Love, and John Mundy, whom most of you know, all came to Philadelphia for a wonderful conference. It was entitled Mindful Journey Toward Wholeness. And we took that weekend to kind of look at all of the different similarities and uniqueness of A Course of Love and A Course in Miracles. And it was very fascinating because we had perspectives from all different directions coming in. And it was just a joyful time. We had Sebastian Blacksley, who lives in Argentina, come up and join us, and a lot of people from around the country and around the world. So that was sort of the beginning of Mari becoming a part of our center family. And since then, she's been a very special friend of ours, and we've invited her to consider the center her East Coast home. And I think she feels that way about us, and we feel that way about her. And she's been back a number of other times in person and online. So it's just a joy. And her purpose today is to help others connect with the divine in a unique way through looking at some of her newer work, the Marari, The Way of the Marys, and this new book, I understand, I've not had a chance to read it, is the newest in that link. And so Michael Mark helped her in putting that together, and so I think we'll get a lot of good in-source on that, called Metanoia, and how it views time in a unique way and welcomes us into the new where we find ourselves now. So I'll say now, welcome Mari and Michael. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thanks for having us, Joe.
And as we get cranked up here, I want to welcome back Patricia Pierce. All of you know Patricia. I take our #1 interviewer, a member of the board, and an author and a former pastor and spiritual teacher. She hosts a wonderful podcast called We Awakening. That's really right on point to so much we're dealing with in today's world. So if you haven't checked that out, do so. It's on her website, Patricia Pierce, PEARCE.com, and it's called the We Awakening Podcast. And we'd like to take a moment and welcome each of you, whether you're with us this Sunday afternoon as we're live, or you might be watching it a little bit later on YouTube or one of our social media. You're a part of our center family, and we value that. But if you're new to the family, be sure and check out the website. It's simply contemporarymysticism.org. You'll find hundreds of resources, videos of past speakers, a lot of other people you probably know, but they have wonderful interviews there that go back over about a 10 or 12-year period. Opportunities for sharing and study and meditation and more. So take a look at that. And remember, our goal is to be a partner with you in your special spiritual journey. Each journey is unique to you, and so we want to be a partner with you and hope you will be a partner with us and volunteer, join, support, do whatever you feel called to do to help us continue this work. And lastly, remember, we will have a Q&A after our discussion for a while gets to that point, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions and dialogue. If you have a question, jot it down so you don't forget it, and you'll be able to come online and ask Mari, chat with her a little about your question, or Michael or Patricia. So make a note of your questions, and when we get to that point, you can raise your hand and we'll bring as many as we have time on for our Q&A. So now, without further ado, it's a real joy, Patricia and Mari and Michael, to have you with us, and we'll turn it over to you, and I'll kind of disappear for a little while, then come back during our Q&A. Take it away.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. And it is so wonderful to be here with you all, with both of you. I've been really looking forward to our conversation as I've only recently met Michael, but Mari I've known for a few years and have just had so much joy in dialoguing with you previously. So we'll see where the Spirit wants to lead us today, because the new is all about the unknown, right? And it's not something that we orchestrate or primary thing was the centrality of relationship, that this work itself has arisen out of relationship. And your writing practice itself is a practice of being in this dialogue with Mother Mary. And and that, I don't know, there's just something that feels so core to that things are emerging from relationship, and that
Mhm.
something new is arising
Yeah.
when we come together and honor
Mhm.
the truth of relationship, and that reality is essentially relational, and that the divine is relationship. So I would just love to hear you, Mari, share, what is your experience when you are in holy relationship with another? What is that like for you?
Mhm. Well, what a wonderful topic to bring up because that was my biggest takeaway from A Course in Miracles. That's where I first, heard that phrase. And I just thought it was it's like so much can be impersonal, in life and in teaching and all of that. And to have holy relationships with people. I mean, what could be better? And so I think if you talk about the feeling of it, it's kind it's like friendship, it, I think friendship is about the best thing in the world, and it too, I mean, friendship is so primary, and um, knowing people like Michael and the people that I've in you and the people I've come in contact with through A Course of Love and these Mary books, I mean, that I would never have met otherwise. And so I feel really blessed. And I don't know, I've never experienced it as being overwhelming,
Mm.
which I think is kind of nice. It's like you might think that you would. You think, too many people and it'd be overwhelming, but it hasn't been that way. It's
Mm.
like I think people are respectful of each other and our relationships are, everybody's kind of busy and going a little bit their different ways, but there's something like a core, that's developed from this work. And so I'm very pleased about that. And this place was a big piece of starting. It really
Mm.
was. I mean, my good friends on your near you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm really, really blessed with them.
yeah. And as
Mhm.
you in a Course in Miracles, it talks about the special relationships, which are all about, the about egos. And the holy relationship is really, for me, it's like, all that ego stuff is just, it's not present. And it's just like meeting, divine self to divine self. And there's this knowing and this recognition of this basic oneness that we share. And I would love to hear both of you talk about, because I think the two of you have been experiencing holy relationship together, and also in your creative lives. And so I would love to hear you talk about what it has meant to be in relationship with each other as
Mm,
this work has been coming forth.
mm. For me, he's been a lifesaver, truthfully. Um, but I'll let him say
All right.
something.
I think you hit the nail on the head of something that is really important with holy relationship, which is, Patricia, that we like to talk about the ego a lot, right? But there's also this aspect of when you are trying, like when you decide I want to try to have a holy relationship. I mean, something might come of that, but when you're trying, you are still in this sort of, there's an artifice to it, even if it's well intentioned. And in a holy relationship, you are, you're sort of held and acknowledged by the other, and you know that you're seen for who you really are, and you have the freedom to say, just be yourself. And so there's just no facade there. And when you do that, um, you find there's room for the unexpected to happen. And because you're really not trying to control anything, right? You're just being in relationship. There's a flow to it. Um, I think for Mari and I, our friendship started with writing. And so we have shared a lot of writing and over the years, and there's some, emails that's like, holy cow, who could write all that? But it's just kind of how we do it sometimes. And so, when she asked me for help with Metanoia, I of course was honored and happy to help. And I will say that because of my friendship with Mari, because you could be nervous about that. Like she really wanted help with just um like punctuation or like certain paragraph things, or like help me just make sure like this is like a book that people are going to read, and that it's going to present well. And having known Mari as well as I did, I felt like I could feel what Mary or she were trying to say at times. And if the words were just a smidge off,
Mm.
um, I felt like I had this place that Mari and I share where we had come together over the years that I could draw on to, like, I think what's really happening here. And there'd be this kind of feeling to that, and you just go with that and then send it back to Mari and we would talk about it. But it really brought to light for me the reality of that relationship and that place where that third, what is it called, the third something, or that place between, where people meet in the unknown. So it
Yeah,
was really a privilege, and I got a lot out of it. It was a great experience.
Mm.
that's for me too, for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's so interesting, Michael, that you could feel you it sounds like you yourself were sort of entering into that relational dynamic that Mari and Mary were operating inside of. Like you, even though you weren't directly involved in the dialogues, you could tune in with the energy of it or the essence of it. That to me is so fascinating.
I mean, I think
you're
so,
so good,
Patricia.
Christine.
Go ahead, Mari.
No, it's just so true. She's so good at saying it, Just carry on.
Well, I think what people maybe, if they don't or haven't realized it already, should realize is that, so there's a sense when you're doing creative work, whether you like to do woodworking, writing, making movies, fixing cars, whatever it is, right? You get kind of in that zone, and if you are at all inclined to think about that sensation and feeling of being creative spiritually, you realize that you have somehow touched something beyond you that is still you, and there's this place where things are flowing. And so it was exactly like that. It was just this sense of what is trying to be said here. And then there would be that, if I got into that real feeling of it, like, oh, okay, I think this is what's going on. But I guess what I wanted to say is that if, and if people haven't realized that that is the experience available, I think to every reader as well, when we talk about Mari as first receiver, we're all actually entering into that same relatedness or relationship, that is the source of these beautiful works, I think.
Yeah, so true. I felt that, I felt like I was privy to something that you Mari, were experiencing in your dialogue with Mother Mary, but it also felt like something that I, as a reader, was entering into, and that it was speaking to me at so many different levels. And it was really quite beautiful. And I, coming back to this centrality of relationship, A Course of Love was different. It didn't emerge from this dialogical process. You were receiving this teaching, this course from Jesus. And it, to me, it's so emblematic of this shift from sort of more masculine energies to more feminine energies with Mother Mary. Now it's emerging out of this dialogue. And of course, A Course of Love talks about dialogue as, the place from which the new arises. And I'm curious, Mari, when you're having these dialogues with Mother Mary,
Mhm.
and first of all, let me also say that your writing, I love your writing is so exploratory. It is so, um, well, Mother Mary talks about you writing it out. Like that's your way. You write something out, and it's as though I'm watching in real time you writing something out into your own clarity around something. And then Mother Mary will comment, she'll say, yes. Oftentimes, yes, I've been waiting for you to see that. But I'm curious, when you are in this experience with Mother Mary, how do you experience her energy? Is that anything that you can put into words?
Mm. I think it's become so natural to me that it's like inspiration. Just something that is uh, there to help me,
Yeah.
and there to be understood. And I really love it when I feel like I'm actually delivering something that hasn't been known before, that kind of thing. That really gives me a thrill. And but I think over time it's become quite natural, you know. It just doesn't really feel as extraordinary as it did at one
Mhm.
time. It's like being friends.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
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 yeah. I can appreciate that. And so
yeah.
this book, Metanoia, which is the third in the trilogy of the Way of Marys, the Way of the Marys, Metanoia refers to a revolution in consciousness. And I'm curious, Michael, how, from your perspective, how would you characterize how you perceive that revolution in consciousness? Not to
Um,
put you on the spot or
no, no,
anything.
no, it's good. I think, well, so a lot of Mari's, this whole series has that divine feminine aspect to it.
Mhm.
And so when I think about metanoia, I think, oh, I don't know if I try, it maybe just came about from reading the books, but there's this feminine entry point to it, which is that I think about that it's a shift from so many things to a care for life or a real open heartedness and a concern for those things that are precious but not always valued by the world that we have to or that we live in today at some level. And I know that there's choices about how you engage with that world, but it's really to me this metanoia in terms of a heart opening is about really feeling and appreciating that the preciousness of life and reality and love and one another and all those things um, that don't have a dollar value and don't have an accomplishment to them and don't have a number of likes and don't have all that other stuff. They're just amazing. And to
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. Mari, anything you want to add to that?
Isn't he good?
He is good.
I've been so blessed to have him in my life. Yeah, I'm a I'm really good at expressing things in writing, but I'm not very good in, you know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that's true of a lot of us that write,
Mm.
you know? It's like, okay, we're good writers, but you know, you want to have a conversation. It's not quite the same.
You can always say, well, if you want to know the answer, read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as I get older, I'm having memory issues too, so I don't even always remember what's in the book, you know? So it's like I have to go back and, um, but even if I can't say the words, I know it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this
Yeah.
is the thing. It's a different kind of knowing, and I'm hoping that it kind of um, like it'll be a graceful, intricate kind of thing. You know, like it's not like having a mush mind. It's
Mm.
having something intricate.
Mm. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that reminds me, Mari, like,
Mm.
it's funny you say that because I know that when we talk sometimes, I'll say something from the book and you'll be like, oh, I wrote like that's in the book. But when you talk about the intricacy, that reminded me of the lace in Metanoia. There's that whole section on lace. And I won't say I fully fathomed that particular section. Um, but it's very interesting because it talked about um, like the way the universe is woven together
Mm.
and how that sort of delicate, intricate interconnectedness of everything at once. I don't know how to say it, but it was really beautiful, beautiful section, I thought.
Yeah. It sort of reminds me of Indra's web of everything being, and I have to go back and find it, but somewhere in Metanoia it talks about, um, I'll have to paraphrase because I don't remember the exact words, but it was something like Christ is the mutual relationship in which everything relates to the all, or something like that. And I thought it was just such a beautiful description, and it brings us back to the relational, sort of the fundamentally relational nature of reality, which is what we're moving into, out of this idea of all being these separate entities, and moving into this awareness that we exist in and as relationship,
Mm.
and that we discover who we are in relationship. And
Yeah.
that's, again, brings us back to holy relationship. That holy relationship is one in which we can truly discover who we truly are. And so, there's this quality. And one of the things that strikes me about metanoia and this whole process that you've been in, Mari, is it's not about erasing the personal. It's not about erasing one's own story or experiences. And I know that's been part of your journey and because I think a lot of times we believe that the spiritual life is about kind of making ourselves sort of go away. I don't know a better way of saying it, but Mother Mary and this whole process for you has been, and in fact, when you were receiving A Course of Love, there came a point when Jesus stopped communicating because you needed to reclaim the importance of your own self, and that this teaching was coming through you specifically, and that if it had come through someone else, and Mother Mary says this in Metanoia,
Mhm.
it would be a different thing, that it is what it is because it came through you. the specificity of your humanity.
Yeah.
And that just really struck me. And maybe because, as women, we're often taught to kind of disappear ourselves.
Yes.
And
And
yet this has been really, you have been asked to step into the fullness of you and to claim your personal self and your story. And I just, whatever you'd like to say about that, I'd love to hear any reflection you have.
well, I can remember so much. I mean, I loved A Course in Miracles, and I read it many times over, and I wanted to know more about Helen. It was like that just seemed like something missing to me. And I mean, I didn't in any way manufacture it, being in my work, it just sort of came that way. But I think I agree with you. It's like it's a really different thing to have the personal. That was like a dirty word at one time, and spirituality, the personal. And it's like, oh, we've got to be personal. We have to be. So, yeah, if I've had anything to do with the changing of that, I'll be kind of fulfilled because,
Yeah.
yeah, that really bothered me. I loved A Course in Miracles, but I could, the way it was talked about and, taught and stuff just didn't resonate with me very much.
Yeah.
There
And I
was some,
wonder,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I wonder if it's because we've equated the personal with the egoic. We've equated the specificity of our own humanity with, something that is of the ego. But even when we have begun to move out of those egoic mindsets, there's still a uniqueness to each of us. And that, the way I see it is that is the divine expressing itself in this infinite, these infinite forms. And to deny the uniqueness is to deny an aspect of the divine.
Why you say things good. You, you do. Oh my
Well,
God.
it is. It's about, there's both the specific and the union.
Mhm.
And it's a both and, it's not an either or. And Mark, I'm Mark. I see that's a problem. Michael,
I
Mark,
know,
and
I
it's
know.
just like you probably run into that all the time. But Michael, what is your take on that? The personal and the role of the personal in the new.
I
We'll
think
talk.
it's a great topic, and you touched on something earlier, Patricia, that I think relates. I was thinking about um, like A Course of Love, how um, it was like you said earlier, it's kind of shift from a masculine to the feminine because I wasn't as I didn't know Mari when she received that, obviously, but that was almost like word for word, like bang, 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 right? Like that's how I envision it. And then we moving to this place with the Way of Mary series where there's a much greater fluidity to it. And so there's that uniqueness to it that brings the personal into it. But I, I don't know, I can get kind of philosophical, but if you think about the all of everything, like it just doesn't have it's amazing, but if we all were to dissolve and just be one mind without distinction, that might be a beautiful state, and there probably is a consciousness out there enjoying that as we speak, but you cannot have holy relationship really without this differentiation. And it you could ask why this happens, and there's all sorts of books, right, with great answers about why and how and all that, but at the end of the day, for me, it's a mystery, and it's a really beautiful thing where I guess I want to say I'm rambling a little bit, but in there's little tidbits in like in A Course of Love and in the Way of Mary books that really stick with me. And they might not be the ones that are the most talked about, but like I think there's a line in A Course of Love about when Jesus sort of says, like, you realize that you're actually living the life you want to live. You might, and I interpreted that as we all kind of maybe wish we had a different whatever, different circumstance, more money, different job. Not everyone wants those things, obviously, but we all might have these different frustrations in our lives and wish our circumstances were different. But when you really sit with that, at least for me, you discover that like you are really uh, who you want to be. Also, that you are who. There's a place where you would not give up who you are at the most essential core of yourself, no matter what. And no one else like everyone has access to that for themselves, that door to the divine, but it's a uniqueness to you. And I think you realize at the end of the day when you sit with that, that like it's an astonishing awareness, and that to know that like you would not change who you are. And maybe you don't even fully know all that you are or who you are, but there's something there you do know. And it's, you would, you know, you care for that and you know it and you want to be more of it. And that is a uniqueness. And we need one another so that we can do that. That's the only way we can do it is through relationship with one another.
Yeah, beautiful.
Mhm.
And I'm curious also, Michael, because these works are really about, they're very much expressing the nature and the energy of the feminine. And what is that like for you as a man? Because I know sometimes that, it can be problematic, with the, their assumptions can be made about, what it means to be a man and embrace feminine aspects and attributes. So I'd love to hear you share your experience with that.
Yeah. Um, so it's funny. I have run across this topic I think it's a universal topic, first of all, right? Like we've run across this, the masculine and the feminine. And I think in so many different places, or at least I have in my life, but I think in when they are held in their divine sort of form, or they're not, uh, the word distorted, okay? In their pure form, and when they're in balance, they are both like really beautiful and powerful and so many different attributes, right? But like each one of them is so interwoven with the divine that you just can't, it's a path right to it. Like the beautiful femininity and beautiful masculinity, or whatever adjective you want to put there besides beautiful, in its divine right place. It's just it's like a primal force. And I think the problem comes when there's an imbalance, right? So, like, as a man, and I think about this, it's easy to, especially with all the stuff going on in the world, like, there's so much about toxic masculinity and men feeling like they're um, so challenged to have a positive place in some circumstances or conversations. Um, and so, navigating how to be those things can be challenging. But um, for me, you know, when I actually sit down and think about it, there's very few traits or behaviors that I could think about that are good that men might exhibit, that we would want them to exhibit, that I couldn't see a woman exhibiting at some point. And there are many feminine, that we call feminine characteristics, and that I have seen men exhibit, and it's wonderful when they do, and vice versa, right? So these are just natural polarities of the divine that flow through all of us. We're not one or the other. And it's just when they get out of balance that I think there's a problem. So I usually think about it in terms of trying to make sure that I'm being open to both sides of that coin and
Mhm.
try to appreciate both. Um,
Yeah.
but I do see that so much of the world today is predicated on an extremity or a distortion of a healthy masculine
Mhm.
that would be healthy in the right balance.
Yeah.
Um, and so I see the problems with the extension or the degree to which certain masculine things have been pushed to their absolute brink without any counterbalance. It's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you talk about that, and one of the things that I'd be curious to hear you, Mari, reflect on is we have these sort of stereotypical ideas of what these energies are. And the feminine, I mean, Mirari, the first of the three books in this trilogy, begins with a very fierce kind of feminine energy of these women protecting the babes from the dogs. And it's like there's this fierceness too. You know, the feminine energy is not all, you know, fluffy and sweet. And so I'm curious, Mari, I mean, I remember I believe you said that when that image first came to you, which is kind of an archetypal image, it was a little bit disturbing. And what would you say about the fierceness that is also part of the feminine?
Love it.
What's that?
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it's like it might be a little startling at first, but then it just became something that was like, well, it's about time.
Mm,
You know, just to say, um, I mean, I can't remember what Mary said about it, but anyway, to say, to bring it forward, let's say, to bring it forward, that this is, women can be very fierce, you know, and it doesn't mean you're not loving,
yeah.
but we can, you know, we've got something in us that, you know, protectiveness and, um, I mean, for others and stuff like that, you know, and I think probably a little bit more than men in some ways, but gosh, when you know a good man like Michael, or you know, when you know a good man, it's like it doesn't seem like it's very different. I
Yeah.
don't think,
Right.
you know,
Right.
yeah,
When all of that is in balance. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
totally. So there was another part in so metanoia, revolution in consciousness, and we've talked about how relationship is sort of the ground of our existence and the way in which the new comes forth. And that
Mm,
we're right now in this time where the old structures are falling apart.
mm,
And I think a lot of people feel like, you know, need to figure out where we're going. We need to, you know, create a vision, but it's it's emergent. It's an emergent phenomenon, the new is, and it emerges out of relationship. It's not something that we decide on ahead of time and then go about, you know, constructing.
good way of
So it's like,
saying.
and that asks of us to be fully present in the moment too, and to
Mhm.
be able to abide in unknowing, in the unknown.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that really stood out to me in Metanoia is the imaginal. And the imaginal is referred to a lot. And I know for myself, when I feel like I'm entering into that imaginal dimension, it's different than the imagination. It's a different thing. And it's more like entering into this state of possibility and fluidity, and I would love to hear either or both of you reflect on your experience of the imaginal.
Mm, mm. What a good question. I don't know if I can answer it in a as well as I would like. Um, hmm, kind of like a, you know, if you when you think about the arts, you know, I mean, it kind of like almost like a melding of something that is an art and something that is thought. You know, it's like it's just not, um, which isn't hard to imagine. It's not hard to imagine that, you know, thought and so something like that, I think, is where it's like for fullness. There's a fullness. It's not part of you. It's not just your brain. It's not just your heart. It's the whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is some place, I think, in Metanoia where it talks about how it's not literal.
Hmm.
It's more
Mm.
I mean, for me, imagistic, I mean, certainly that would be a word that's related, right? Michael, how about you? What's your experience of the imaginal?
Um, well, you hit on something really, I think that's important, which is there's also this place in Metanoia where it talks about meaning and like getting away from meanings. And, Mari bought her tree book, right? And she wanted to learn the names of all the trees. And then she was like, this is not what I'm trying to do here. I just want to know my trees, right?
Not
And
know the names, but actually
yeah,
know the
actually
trees.
know the
Yeah.
tree.
Yes.
And the imaginal, I think, is described in Metanoia as the feminine aspect of time, maybe. And I just think the imaginal, well, first of all, your point was perfect, I thought, when you said that, like, we're not going to, like, figure out what we want to go as the new and then construct a series of steps. Um, that actually, to me, would be an example of the but you could call it a masculine process taken to an extreme, right? Where um, if you just think of, I'll wander for a moment, but if you just think of like physics and the idea that like through math and language and the meaning of symbols and words, we can map the entire universe. Okay. We need language to communicate. And if we were to ascribe sort of language as a technology or maybe a masculine thing, assigning meanings and things like that, like there's a place where we need that to communicate, right? But when you try to say this word means this and only this, and this word means this and only this, true communication is right out the window, right? Like when
Mm.
we're having a holy relationship and we're talking, people know what you're trying to say. You play back the tape, you look at those words, you'd be like, how the heck did they get that out of that, right? Like the words don't matter, but
Yeah.
you need something to get
Mhm.
some form or embodiment to move the process. And so I think of like some of the idea that we can construct or build a world, we can conceive it and then build it is a little bit of similar to one of those kind of masculine things, maybe to an extreme. Like that's what we're sort of recovering from.
Yeah.
Um, and so the imaginal is how do we create a world that is predicated obviously on a balance between the masculine and the feminine, but it's a world that we don't know how what we're doing right now is bringing that world into existence. And, we've all seen that in our lives, right? You look back and there's these little moments where you made this choice and it's like, but boy, that really had far ranging consequences. I did not know that at the time.
Mm.
And so we're just having to live with this uncertainty. Like, what do I do to bring about the new? And the imaginal is this place, if you can hold on to that, where you can, I think, be content with um, accessing this creative fluidity that is part of you, and getting to a place where you can allow um, the new to come, even if you don't know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. And I sometimes think of the distinction between an architect sitting down to plan a structure of some kind and a tree, and how a tree expresses its essence by growing. And my sense of it is that the new is this organic process.
Mm.
It's not something that we, get our drafting table out
Yeah.
and, work
Right.
out all the details and
Nothing to do with math, right? Yeah.
yeah, for myself, I do sense, and this is, I feel like this is like entering where when I enter into that imaginal space, I can feel the energy of the new. I can feel like the essence of the new earth. And, I don't necessarily see the specifics, but I can kind of feel it within me. And that's what it is, right? We allow the new to be embodied in us, and then through us have expression. And I think, Michael, does this touch on the soul and the soul of the world and how those two are related? Can you
I,
speak to that at all?
I think so. There's a part in Metanoia where Mary, I think Holy Mary is talking to Mari about, or maybe Mari said, I can't remember. It blurs together, right? But like saying that your soul sort of knows and holds for you
Your soul
that. It's
knows
one,
for you. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I remember earlier I was talking about that place you eventually discover like there's a me here that I wouldn't, it's not an egoic me, but there is a me here that's just um, directly from the divine that I would not, that I cherish and would protect and would and want to grow. And I think the growth of that extension of the divine, the soul sort of provides this um, directionality to that. It doesn't require you to make a choice or to decide, am I going to be a doctor or a lawyer, or am I going to be a plumber, or am I going to be a nurse? Am I going to be a playwright? Like your soul is not really worried about those things, right? But there is this directionality to the way the divine unfolds through you. And I think that there's this soul of the world concept in metanoia too. And I think there's this idea that when we, um, kind of balance the masculine and the feminine, or are birthing the new within ourselves, that we are moving in concert with the soul of the world, which is doing the same thing for the new. It is like a directionality to the unfolding of the divine in this realm. So we don't have to figure out, is the world going to be this type of world? Is it going to be a doctor or a lawyer? The new is the soul of the world is like this magnet. And when you open yourself to it, you are attracted to that directionality. And the miracle is that it is in perfect alignment with your own individual soul's direction. Like,
Mm.
when you get things sorted out, not that you personally sort them, but when they are, I don't know how to say this without it being sort of preachy, but like when you get through this BS and you are unfolding naturally, organically, truly, it is perfectly enfolded into the soul of the world, and the world's unfolding. You're not driving the whole world, but those are deeply interconnected
Mm.
processes. And so it's impossible for there to be anyone in the world who is living naturally and true to the divine within themselves, who would want something or desire something that wouldn't be perfectly in line with what the soul of the world is seeking as well.
Mm. Oh, thank you for that. I want to make sure we have time for Q&A, but as we wrap up, Mari, I wonder if there's a favorite passage from Metanoia that you might like to read for us.
Hmm. I wish I'd thought of that before. Let's see if I can. This is
Or you can just
book I
open it
haven't
and read
used yet.
whatever, open it and whatever shows up.
Okay, here the little tag I have on it says life is personal.
Oh, well, that fits.
Yeah, okay. Life is personal. Each reader of these words who hears them, who takes them in, who is affected by them in their own way, will completely understand the personal nature of it for them as well as for me. Personal doesn't mean exclusive, only individual and unique. And the individual and unique is what makes us who we are and ought not be denied. That's all I'm saying. No one has the right to tell us what is or is not personal to us. It's with the intimacy that abides at the heart of us that we gain the capacity for letting words touch us at the feeling rather than the intellectual level. Enough?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And it weaves back in with what we were talking about earlier. That's
I
wonderful.
went to the right page, I think.
How about that? Without any effort or choice. Ah, that's great. Well, both of you, thank you so much. This has been such a delight. It's just been a true joy to be with you both. And I'm going to remind people, if you have a question, you can either type it in the Q&A little box thing, or you can raise your hand, and Joe is going to come back on in a minute and he will facilitate our Q&A, and he'll bring you on as a panelist if you raise your hand, and then you can turn your video on and ask your question directly to Michael and or Mari. So thank you both. And Joe, I would invite you to come back on, and I will turn it over to him to facilitate the Q&A, and I'm going to turn my video off. So still here, but I'm
Thank
going
you
to
so much,
come.
Patricia.
Thank you, Patricia.
That was so wonderful, Maury and Michael, for really many reasons, but I think the way it just delved into our inner journey, for me at least, and kind of went beyond the masculine and the feminine. And that's what is the power for me for A Course in Love and all of the things that Maury has taken. I can finally kind of get rid of the mantle of being a guy, being a girl, and just and that's powerful. That's very powerful. So let's hear from what others may have to say. We will open it up, and if there's those who would like to have a question, we will bring them on. It looks like we might have a question from Elliot. So Elliot, you need to click the little button that says promote to a panelist. And if you click that, why, then you'll be promoted and you can turn on your screen. And let me see if you're coming on. Yeah, very good. Turn on, unmute and turn on your video, and then you'll be able to ask Maury or Michael a question. There you go.
What a joy.
No.
Hi, everyone. It's such a joy to be spending time with you. The space was so welcoming of the unique me, of that me who is divine, as you were saying, Michael. And just from the get-go, it's been just marinating in that beautiful energy, and I'm just so grateful. And I don't think I have any questions, but I do have a few things that just really came forward for me. You were talking about this being a feminine age, and I'm so excited about that. And I find that I want to be engaged in my quiet time in a divine feminine way. Something that came to me just recently was to sit with an ascended master. My first one was Kuan Yin. And then I've had other ones since then. And then eventually, after a couple of weeks of that, I ended up deciding to sit in Dharma with them. It's just eye to eye. They were just the master in front of me. And some magical things have been happening. Mary Magdalene, for example, gave me a necklace, put a necklace on me. And anyway, I won't go into the whole story. But another thing that showed up was just a synchronicity. Just last night, I was reading a book by Susan Kidd, and she said it was one where she said the relationship, or life isn't about for God, doing things for God or toward God, but with God. And I heard you guys say the same thing, in other words, over the last few minutes. I tend to stay away from masculine, feminine, those words, simply because there's so much confusion around them. And I'm also interested in how the divine masculine and divine feminine can support one another. And I wonder if the divine feminine can support the divine masculine by saying you belong. But I haven't really explored that much. So I could go on, and I know there are other people, so I'm going to just throw away half my notes. And I just really want to end by saying, big congratulations, Maury. I have just seen in the log cabin. I assume that's where you were writing it. I read the first book. I love the sentence that about how the new is coming to us conspicuously like dew in the morning. I love that. So true. I've been watching that happen ever since I read the book. And it's not bombastic at all. It's invisible, and so I look forward to reading this book. And I just want to let you know, this book is right on time. The astrologers would all say that. Everyone, this is the moment right now in December with AI, Atlas 3 AI, and with Atlas going through the system, and then finally. I could so relate to what you were saying, Mari, when you were like, sometimes writers don't know how to talk too well. I can so relate to that. Anyway, I'm gonna be quiet. I love listening.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you for that sharing and that joy. Anything else you want to respond, Maury? He had a lot in there.
And I think he just got back in touch with me recently. I knew him some years ago, so
Uh-huh.
that will be an interesting thing to hear more. So
Right. Great. We had a question from Lily. Lily, if you wanted to click on join as a panelist uh, there on your screen, we can bring you on and let you ask your question for Maury. And be sure and unmute.
Oh, I am so honored to be here. And like Elliot, I have thousands of things that ask you to start your video. Okay. Oh gosh, Mari, you have set me free. Just your seeing and giving to all of us that being who I am right now is not only sufficient, so I don't have to go running around trying and exerting myself to be better, which is pretty exhausting and a little bit aggressive towards me, but that who I am in this present moment is not only sufficient, but is the necessary vessel that God needs. So your words have set me free and have made me feel needed as I am. So I don't have to look for a goal or a purpose, because my purpose rests in the me of the moment, which includes the whole gamut, And I, as I have wrestled with lots and lots of things, but power. I remember about 6 or 7 years ago, in Unity, when you write down on the white stone your word, and I wrote power because I was afraid of stepping into my power because I would not be loved. Because, women in my family and women of the ages, you're an adjunct, and you're not as powerful, and even though I always knew I was real powerful, but I was just kind of damping it down. And then I read something in The Way of Marys, and you said something about, and I wrote it down. You know how fragile are the hearts that bear the old. That helps me with my compassion. And then you said, do not give fear cause to grow. And so when I'm when I'm in the world and lots of difficult personalities I'm seeing difficult personalities, which, probably says more about me. But then that just brings me to my power, which you went on to say, be gentle, ease fears. This is where your true power lies, and it is mighty. So once again, you're seeing, you're hearing, you're knowing that my femininity is my power also. So Mari, you know, I know there's a lot of other people, but I did have the thought. I'm like, gee, Mari, it's kind of like a mother, and you have a gazillion children, and they're all really smart, like us. We're off on our own spiritual journey now that you have given us these amazing revelations that we get to have ourselves. And I'm wondering, it's like, don't you sometimes go, but but what about me? Love me too, take me with you. And off we go. Or maybe you don't even know us. But anyway, Mari, I'm complete.
Thank you.
That was so beautiful. That was beautiful.
Man.
Add a note of humor. It reminds me of a country music singer who had a song that said to his girl or whoever, "If you decide to leave me, can I go with you?" So when she was talking,
Like that.
yeah, that was pretty good. But those were good thoughts, and I think so many of us feel that way. Maury, Daniel has a question. Daniel, I thought if you would click on the little button that says "Join as a panelist," we'd love to bring you on and let you unmute and ask your question. There you are. Great.
My good friend Danny Neese.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on just a second. Oh, man. Hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Well, first, hi, Mari, Michael, Patricia, Joe. I was there 7 years ago and got to meet all of you. That was the beginning of my relationship. That
Wonderful.
was so meaningful. So thank you for your center, Sebastian, Glenn, everybody. So you talked about the meaning of the word metanoia. And when Mari had said she was receiving her third book, Metanoia, I wanted to share with her, that when I took Greek in college, we were translating the New Testament, and I was raised in a Southern Baptist church. And I came across the word metanoia, and it was translated as repentance in the Bible. But the way the Greek word shows up is how I think Mother Mary talks about it, a great turning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a turning to something new. There's nothing about guilt. There's nothing about punishment. And it was so freeing. And so I bothered Mari for a while till, and I might get in trouble for saying this, she sent me a rough draft in November a year ago. And as I read it, it seemed like such a continuation, of Marari, where there is the idea of the birth of a child, which to me began with the end of Course of Love, where we were birthing the new. And it took a certain fierceness to protect it away from this intellectual, maybe this unhealthy masculinity that wasn't open to something that just came from the heart in the new. And so, the word started coming to me as the great turning. And the great turning, I think, has been into this imaginal realm. That word occurs once in A Course of Love in chapter 20. And trying to put words on that realm. And I loved what you said, Michael and Patricia. But to me, it is the realm of our true self, the Christ self, that I think even exists over on what I would call the alpha side of reality that has a uniqueness to us. And then we are over here on the omega side in form. And I reminded when Jesus said, I am the alpha and the omega. And as we bring in that true self and it manifests in us and this uniqueness comes forth, that's the realm we begin to live in, the imaginal realm. And it is new because it's a place of receiving, acceptance, allowance. If we hold on to anything, it's not the new, or as John Cross said, to go to a place that you know not, you must go by a way that you know not. So that to me is the imaginal and the new. And so I'm thankful that this emerges out of the feminine. And I'm so thankful. It feels like a recurring place of the feminine, of life and love, that kind of had to shut down and become almost like unhealthy masculinity to even be seen and known. And my hope is that out of this beautiful new feminine, a new masculinity will be born. And I think that we can all participate in that as men and women. We all have masculine and feminine traits, no matter what gender we are. So anyway, just wanted to say hello and thank you guys.
Thank you, Daniel. As you were talking, something has stuck with me back in my old seminary days at Union Seminary. I had a professor who, when dealing with the word metanoia, like you, had talked about how it had been misinterpreted. And he said, really, it's simply like thinking of holding a steering wheel and you just turn it. You're heading one direction and all, for whatever reason, you just feel called or led or moved, and you just turn it and just go in a different direction. There's no guilt. There's no shame. There's nothing. You just turn and go in a new direction. And that, like you, I grew up in the South in a fundamentalist tradition, and where everything was about repentance and all of this stuff. And he said there's none of that there. It's just grabbing that wheel and turning and taking off in a new direction. And that was so liberating to me.
Yeah.
But thank you too for your beautiful thoughts on this new path to feminism, and one that includes all of our feminine and masculine traits. I didn't mean to take over there, Mari. That just struck me. Is there anything you would like to add to those great remarks from Daniel?
Yeah, definitely. Very good remarks. And I had something I was going to say, and now it's gone. So I'm sorry, but
See, you're living in the imaginal realm. You think of it as memory issues. I think of it as you're moving into the imaginal realm. And I think that's basically where the kingdom is. So beautiful, beautiful words here. Again, thank you, Daniel. And I believe we do.
wait just a minute.
Go ahead.
Shoot, I was getting it back. That's all right. It was.
You
Dang it,
can
now it's
say
shutting down again. Flashing in and out of my world. Okay, never mind.
It'll come back to you about 3 o'clock.
Yes.
Another questioner by the name of David has a hand up. David, if you maybe try to take one more here, if you want to click on promote to a panelist, we'll bring David on and let him unmute and ask a question of Maury. There's David. I think you're still muted or not connected to audio.
Can't hear you. No.
Go unmute finally.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're good now. Good.
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation, Michael and Marie. It's been great. For me, this has been extraordinary, exploration philosophically of metaphysical processes. I really feel jazzed listening to it. The question I had is, what was Mary actually like? I mean, a very important person is historically, right? Her role, there's her role in history and everything. But insofar as different feminine energies apply to different women, and a lot of different people could have been Jesus's mom, right? So what was she like as a person, kind of? This is your only question.
Ah. Ah. Well, I can't tell you that out of personal experience or anything, but um, from what I received from her, I believe that she was very loving and way more probably brilliant than she was ever given credit for, and and very much she suffered a lot with her son dying the way he did, you know, and that whole, I know what, I lost a son and I know what that's like. And I think she was very, um, something was added to her from that, you know, from that experience. So that's kind of what that question brings up for me.
Yeah. Great humanity.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sure.
Well, thank you, David, for that question. And you know, and in a lot of the readings, and I guess just meditations, I've sensed that the Immaculate Mother of Mary was gentle and very human, but also very strong in a lot of ways. She would come across with a strength, just from my perception, that didn't need a loud voice or didn't need, you know, to stand out in a crowd, but there was a strength there in her being that has always been meaningful to me. So, well, this has been wonderful. We better not keep folks too long. We're going to ask Patricia to come back, as she's been our co-leader all along. And I want to thank Mari and Michael for this inspiring and beautiful time together. And thanks to all of you, because all of your questions were wonderful and right on point. And I know there was a number that we didn't get to, but I want you to know how much we appreciate it. And if you want to learn more about Mari, you could go to her website. I believe is the main website, Mari, just the mariperron.com. Is that the best one? I know that has things about Metanoia on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to them anymore myself. So yeah, sure. So
Well,
is that it, Michael?
if there are any
That's good. That's fine. The Center for A Course of Love, Way of the
Center
Mary site, Mari
Okay.
Perron, those are all good places to go.
Good. And if you Google her, I think you know, everybody's got to like to be Googled. Make them laugh. But you'll come up with her all over the Google space, and it'll bring you to a lot of the stuff that she's doing. And so, if you want to learn more also about Patricia and her work, particularly her We Awakening podcast, as I've mentioned, uh, you can go to her website as Patricia Pierce, PEARCE.com, and she leads some companioning groups for those who are journeying through this transition in which we're living. And lastly, I think about the center, always be sure and go to contemporarymysticism.org, because you'll find our fascinating upcoming programs there. We have, for those of you who live close by, we have a number of in-person meetings, not only Zoom, coming up the first of the year. And then in May, our spring retreat, we always have a fall and spring retreat. We have Mary Reed. Many of you know Mary Reed, who is really has a following around the world and is a wonderful spiritual teacher, and she's going to lead our spring retreat. So we want to thank you, Mari and Michael, so much for taking time to be here. And I know that Mari feels connected to the center because it's kind of where she started out some of her public speaking. And I heard by grapevine that she doesn't do much anymore, but she wanted to do this one because it kind of wraps it up in a nice bow. And you've done a good job with that today, Mari, and particularly with Michael being there. And so I think it's just delightful. So we're grateful to all of you who have been part of this. We're grateful to Patricia for her critical role. And I'll say, until we meet again, be safe, be well, and remember, you are perfect just exactly as you are. So God bless, Godspeed, and we'll see you when we next meet again. Love to all.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
It was great. Thank you.
Appreciate it.